Jay, being such a young team, there were some questions about how inexperience might play against you. How you guys handled that, and how was Mark's role? How Mark play against those concerns?
Um, we try not to feed too much into what the media has to say in regards to inexperience. And I guess the thing early in the year was like being too young. When you're young, I feel like we just kind of use it to our advantage. Like we try not to look at what we can't do and just focus on what we can do and be really good at that. And I think Mark has done a really good job of instilling that in us since I've been here for the past 3 years. And it's just something that we get harped on a lot in the thing. And as we grow through these experiences, young or not, when you can learn from whatever situation you're thrown in, it makes you better. And I think that's why we're here right now in this moment.
Again, same row in the center.
Hey, Jalen, drafteados from Spain. I was going to ask you about that too because we talk a lot with an Spanish ex-NBA player, and he always says that character means more than experience in the playoffs. And I think you guys, being such a young group, really embody that. So how do you feel about that statement?
No, I think it's true. I think, honestly, if you look at both teams, you look at Indiana and you do a closer look on them, they're like us. Like, you can see the team chemistry they have. You can see that they love playing with each other and they enjoy being in these moments together. And I think that's starting to look like what the blueprint of the NBA is. When you get a group of guys that like playing with each other and like doing stuff for each other and just are constantly willing to make the extra sacrifices, the extra plays for each other while we go through these ups and downs of the season, I think that's what makes you a good team.
Steve, on your right.
Hi, Steve Ashburner, NBA.com. You draw duty defensively where you're asked to guard smaller, guard bigger. I'm just wondering what prepared you to be able to handle those type of demands, and any key ingredients to actually being successful at that?
God had me grow at the right time in college. So I was short for a long time, so I was guarding little guards, and then obviously I grew. And I think that kind of helped. Obviously, the taller you are, you can guard more positions. The Thunder did a really good job, I think, grooming me into that. Just throughout my first year, they just put me in so many different situations, and I was able to learn from them and get better through the situations. And I think I was in a really good position where, as a rookie, I was able to do trial and error and do a bunch of stuff like that. So when I get to these moments now, I've had more years under my belt to learn how to guard bigger guys, learn how to guard smaller guards. So I've been able to grow through the process of doing that. And then defense is a mentality too. Regardless of who you're guarding, if you go out there and compete, you could be pretty good defensively.
Over here on the left, Joel.
Joel Lorenzi, the Oklahoman. Dub, you said after the Denver series, I believe, that you hadn't really slept leading up to Game 7. How have you sort of handled the emotions leading up to the series? How have you digested this? And have you had time to sort of put into perspective, what it means for you to be in the finals in year 3?
I haven't really wrapped my head around the fact that I'm in the finals. I did the correspondence thing 2 years ago, or I guess a year ago. No, 2 years ago, right? Yeah, 2 years ago. And it feels like life has been such a blur since that. I'm still trying to get over the fact that my brother's in the NBA. There's so many things that have happened since then that I'm still trying to take in. So it's definitely a blessing that we're here. And I try not to get too caught up in it because we still have a job to do. And I'm trying to really focus on that. But it is, whenever I can get a couple days off to really look at it. And this past week, I've been able to really just be able to take a step back and just look at how far I came.
Standing on the right, Dan.
Jalen, Dan Devine, Yahoo Sports. As you've had this sort of longer layoff and opportunity to get a closer look at Indiana, look at them, what sort of leapt off the screen about the way they operate offensively? What makes them maybe a different challenge than some of the other offenses that you've dealt with so far?
I think everybody's seen it. I don't want to give too much away, but they obviously play fast. That's their thing. And so you kind of got to tip your hat to them. The playoffs is just historically something that really slows down pace. So for them to be able to impose their will on that and obviously win the last 3 series they played, doing how they want to do it, I think is really impressive. So that's what we've kind of like seen, and I don't think that's really like a big secret, but that's where they're unique.
Fourth row, Vince.
Jalen, Vince Goodwill, Yahoo Sports. It wasn't like you guys are just sort of coming out of nowhere. You were a pretty good team last year, but you're so much more dominant this year with the net rating, the point differential, and everything else. Was there a moment, or have you taken a moment to appreciate how dominant you guys have been? You've had a lot of blowouts. There's been a lot of instances where you've sat the fourth quarter. Has there been a moment of even reflection through this in the locker room saying, guys, this is different than last year?
I think maybe like middle of the year. I think not having bigs, like you remember like Hart and Chet were out for like a good majority of the season too. I think for us to be as successful as we were during that, I think was a big moment for us. But at the same time, it's a very like weird position you get put in because you want to look back at the regular season, but you really don't get any regular season awards. You know what I mean? So, and I think just the playoffs come up so fast, you can't really look back at it. So hopefully, we're trying to win the finals. That's where where our focus is, and we can look back on this later on. But I would just say the middle of the year was more like where our confidence got going from that.
Third row on your right.
Hey, Jalen. Scott Kamsel from The Score. I'm just curious, playing alongside Shea as long as you have, what's the biggest thing you've learned from even being around him, playing with him, anything like that?
His mentality. He's just a winner. Like, he just has a I'm going to get it done mentality, and I think that's kind of rubbed off on the rest of the team. You can always see he doesn't make excuses, and I think that just bleeds over into the team. So I would say I've probably taken that from him, and I think I think that's where he's grown up to, just as a leader. And I'm not saying that he wasn't early on in his career, but I think just for our team, he's been really good leading us that way, and he's a good lead by example.
David Aldridge in the back right.
Okay, told you who I am. The success on the court obviously expresses itself in terms of bringing you guys closer. But I wonder, how has the city and the region kind of gotten into everybody's skin to feel like this is a great place to be, this is a great place to operate?
I've honestly felt like the energy from the city since I've been drafted. Like, when I got here, there was a ton of people outside the hotel, like, waiting to see us and congratulate us. I always compare it to like a small local, like, high school football team being really good, and the city around them kind of like gathers around them. Like, that's how Oklahoma is. But it's with that, with like the whole state. Like, everywhere we go, I've been met with like love since I've been out here, and it's been a really cool experience. So I'm really happy that I get to be a part, even the past 2 years, like, I get to be a part of two really good teams, and I think it just brings the city more and more life, and I'm happy that we get to like bring that back to here.
Over here in the fourth row, third seat in. There you go.
Hey, Jalen. Esper Heaney from NBA Daily. Wanted to ask you, obviously the playoffs have their ebbs and flows, and that can be long in its own way. What have you learned about your game over the last couple of months?
I wouldn't say I've learned anything new about my game, but I think what I've learned is there's highs and lows with every series. There's highs and lows with every game. And the more that you can stay even throughout it all, the better off you'll be. And I think that's where I found a lot of my success.